the resolution 2016-9 is partly why I'm here, because you asked for someone to come help you as soon as possible. So I really want to try to work this out. When I read the now therefore of the resolution, it's paragraph 6. It says a resolution opposing the Heber City Airport becoming a C2 airport. So when I read that, I think that the FAA obviously thinks that the city is not being neutral in the planning process. We think that you're eliminating the option of calling your airport a C2 airport because you're opposing your airport becoming a C2. So when we look at that, we say, well, we think that you've already determined what type of an airport you want to be. And if you want to be something else, then let us know and we'll go forward with an open mind, and we would ask that you go forward with an open mind. But when we see this resolution, it does not appear as if you have an open mind about the master planning process. It seems you have eliminated the option of C2, and you have compromised the validity of the master planning process because it's not neutral.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Yeah.
Do you feel like the FAA is having an open mind where they're already releasing Category C minimums into a B airport?
So I would say that flight procedures is not following the same process that the Air Force Division follows.
Question on the, as far as I think the question on the table too would be what would the city need to do to put it back to say, wait, I think the intent from what I'm hearing is we want to get the study done. So we don't have a study, we just don't. And I get why, the FAA, doesn't direct us what to do. They offer us assistance if we want it. If we don't want it, we don't have to take it. Is that correct?
Right, that's true.
So, I think, I'm sorry, I haven't got the name of
Jeremy.
Jeremy, I think his question was what would we need to change to?
I think the FAA would ask that the city has an open mind going forward with the planning process. And until that happens, we feel like there's really no use to start the plan if you've already made up your mind.
Okay. Other questions for me?
Jeremy, this keep coming up.
Yeah. If you don't mind me following up just a little bit. Getting my thoughts here for a minute. Before this resolution was ever passed, and certainly it's, I think, public knowledge that the city and the residents are generally opposed to a C2, at least they think that they are. I guess I just don't see where the resolution is a surprise or precludes the city from having an open mind. I see acknowledgement in here that there are yet to be determined implications, and we need to get final determinations to be better informed. So I'm struggling still with, I'm pretty sure, and I will ask you, I assume the FAA knew that the general opinion or stance of the population here was that we don't think we want C2, but we don't know, and that's what I see in this resolution. But I guess, is there something surprising about this resolution that was different than what you guys already knew? I know it in advance of ever interviewing, so certainly you have to be aware.
I'd like to say that the FAA is really a partner in this, and we want to help you come to the right solution for your airport. I guess I didn't know that the sentiment of everyone in the area was this way, but I feel like, when I hear that the Heber city wants to
Excuse
oppose.
me, I don't think everybody is opposed to the
Okay,
airport.
that's what I just heard.
I think there's a few opposed,
Okay.
but I don't think it's the majority. That's my own opinion.
But I do, that's right.
That's opinion, everybody gets their own opinion and we'll get there, but, anyway, go on, sorry.
Okay. Well, when I read the resolution, it opposing the Heber City Airport becoming a C2 airport, that is not being neutral. And so I guess that's why the FAA has said we're not going to move forward with it, with the master plan, until the city says we would like to go forward with a map. No, I didn't say C2, I said go forward with an open mind, because that is not what the resolution says.
But I'm going to reiterate what Jeremy said earlier. You said as well today, it is a C2.
You do have C2 aircraft landing and taking off.
We
You have
understand
told
that.
me multiple times.
In this feasibility study, there is an ordinance passed by our city that even says that if planes beyond a certain number of the C2 category, there'll be it's a Class B misdemeanor, $1,000 fine, and 6 months jail. It's right in this study. And it's expressed in this study, and the hearings held when this study was put together were packed full of people that said we don't want to move to a bigger airport, a C2. And that's, Mel says that he doesn't think it's the majority, but he also opposes any kind of polls. So I guess how are we going to find out?
No, I don't oppose any polls.
Well, anyway, this study, the last one, I tried to confirm that as far as I know, it's the last study. It's parts of a master plan, and it talks about what the effects of a C2 would be and what to do to avoid it, and there's acknowledgement of a city resolution that says that the planes of certain weights can't be exceeded or they'll be fined, at least a certain number of them. It talks about 450, no more than 450 events of 12,500 pounds to 30,000 pounds. So, again, to say that it's a surprise or that the people don't want it, the meetings that have been held, the majority of anybody that's come and commented is they don't want it. The elephant in the room, I guess, is if the question is if we don't go to C2, because you've said it already is, but we want to have a really good B2 airport, which is what we've intended to provide to the public, and you don't let the other stock land, and that's the question that's kind of been asked already today. But what kind of support will we get for B2? You just funded a $3.5 million runway as a B2 runway. It doesn't comply as a C2 runway, and yet you just helped us with it. You just funded a purchase of the Maverick property, we're calling it, $1.5 million to keep the RPC for a B2 safe. So we are a B2, you funded a B2, you just built a B2 runway just a year ago. So when all of a sudden did it become...
Rehabilitation, not a new construction.
Yeah, Ron, can I interrupt a minute, just call order? You've asked her 3 questions and not have given her a chance to respond to each. So let's do one question at a time, and let's not talk, let's ask the options, if I may. And what are our obligations as a city to what we've agreed to? You know, and I think one of the explanations, we've got Mayor and another council member in the audience, and I know the question's been asked. What drives that? You know, when I hear you say we're a C2, we're basically would be ranked as a C2 by what we're using right now. That doesn't mean we're a C2 airport, but it means we should be by safety measures. Is that correct?
So, when I look at the traffic coming into your airport, you have over 500 operations of C2 aircraft. And when we have an airport that has a lot of operations of a certain class of aircraft, then we would ask that that airport meet the standards associated with those aircraft.
And basically, the big difference would be clearances,
Runway safety
runway
area,
clearances,
runway protection
protection.
zone.
Yeah, right.
Another big one is the taxiway to runway centerline separation for the wingspan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is a big difference.
Yeah.
Question for you.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
one more, back to Ron's question.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I had to leave to go to
Oh,
work,
okay.
and this is the last time this semester. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ron. Ron, your question, back to your question, I don't know if that is, but, you know, as far as going, I mean, one of the things I think that's been asked, and I think, you know, Ron, correct me, is there any way, I mean, if we stay B category, can we still meet the conditions? Is there a possibility?
I don't know. I'd like to see a master plan study done. And Mr. Kristen, you did mention a resolution that had punitive fines, and I think that we need to revisit the compliance manual because I think that that resolution may be punitive and not allowed.
Well, Steve, I appreciate your comment, and I guess we need to hear about it. It's 12 years old, and it was approved. 20 years old, and nobody said it was punitive till now.
This is the first we've ever heard.
Never because we didn't apply it.
I've got one more question.
No, you're the chairman.
I got one more
Go
question.
ahead, Chairman.
Then I'm going to hand it to Brian. Well, you know what, I'm going to go with your question.
If you look in the airport facility directory, it says single wheel weight, 30,000 pounds wherever. I have heard others say there's 45,000 pounds for dual wheel. I don't see it. Do you know if that exists anywhere? Do you know what dual wheel requirement
We
is?
would be on your airport layout plan. We can take a look at that and figure out what the dual wheel strength is.
If you go in the beginning of an airport facility directory, it says if you are going to land overweight, essentially it says those weight limits are not limitations. Oftentimes runways can take significantly more weight. But if you are anticipating going in overweight, you must ask permission. I'm assuming we're not getting a lot of permission requests.
I occasionally have someone that will ask for permission, and my official line is, I state published numbers, which is 30,000 pounds single wheel. And no one's explained to me, but it's also 30,000 pounds dual wheel, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
That's
So, two-part question for you guys. If they have to ask permission, what are the ramifications if we decline and we tell them they do not have permission? And what are the ramifications, or what can we do if after they've been told no, they come in anyway?
So, as far as I know, you may know better that landing is at a pilot's discretion. Is that true? I've told Terry this in the past. I would not recommend he say yes, it's okay. I've told
I never have.
Yeah,
I never have.
I wouldn't give anyone permission, and I don't know all of the details about limiting weight, but it's something you could possibly look into.
So we may be allowed to tell these people no, because it does say that they have to ask permission. We may be able to tell them no and cut back on sea operations, essentially by, we're not targeting the sea operations, but we can target the 98,000 pound Global Express because we only have a 30,000 pound runway.
It is possible to limit by weight. But I think we would need something official from.
We have to do an engineering study on that. The compliance manual speaks to that directly, and you guys, I know what the grant assurances say in English, but then if you look at the compliance manual says this is what we meant to say in English, but it didn't. It does address the fact that if you're trying to protect asphalt, and you have an engineered study saying you're trying to protect asphalt, as we all know, 18-wheelers are some single-digit percentage of the traffic, and yet they do some high percentage of the damage on our highways. It's obviously the same thing as aircraft and heavy aircraft. Compliance manual also says that you can have a certain number of landings above the strength limitation rating of the runway without doing some significant amount of damage. But what that number is again, it's an engineered quantity. So I think we can approach it from that standpoint only. If we're As long as we have engineering backup, when we say we can only handle 300 of these, and we're going to tear up this runway that we just spent $3.5 million on.
Good to look at. But I'd like to go back to the, certain number of operations over a certain weight, and the resolution was punitive, so we need to be careful not to be punitive for a certain number of operations.
Yeah, you're going to get smoked on 21, 2, and 3 with the grant assurances if you try that.
Yeah.
But is there anything, it doesn't sound like, it sounds like we could most pilots are apparently not looking at the AFB when they see the 30,000 pound, when they come into the 98,000 pound Global Express. Can we publish a notum saying, guys, you better look at the weight restrictions, any weight in excess of 30,000 pounds requires airport permission?
I will help you look into that.
Okay.
Last one, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure I clarify. I'm not saying that 100% of the city shares that sentiment. I guess just there's an obvious and vocal sentiment about concerns over expanding the airport. And then the other thing that I would just remind everybody is that we think that there might be over 500 operations of C2, but that a master plan would clarify that and to what extent. And it feels like that clarity would help both the FAA and the city make those informed decisions. And I'm very much interested in if the resolution needs to change, or if there are other options that the city can do to still have an opinion, but also acknowledge that we need to find out more information in order to make better informed decisions. What are those options? What can we do?
Okay, I'll take you off the hot seat unless we have a question.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, come on up to the mic and please state your name.
I've got a copy of the Wasatch Wade in 2005 when the B2 airport was approved, and this was a statement by one FAA approved, or official. We'd like to build you a Class B2 airport, but we're not going to jam it down your throat. And then I'd like to read just a little bit from one part of the FAA compliance manual. Sponsor determines the level of airport design standards. The sponsor, through preparation of an FAA-approved ALP, may determine the level of design standards for new construction. But I'm not hearing that here. I'm hearing the FAA is going to tell us what we can do.
Yeah, I'll ask my question. And that I was going to ask earlier. It's the city's source. We're the sponsor. The FAA is a participant.
That's true.
And we're in charge of our destiny, but we've also made agreements. We need to follow our agreements, I would hope, as a city. Even though, we can change the future, we can't really change the past administrations, we can change the future. But we're in charge of our destiny on and on.
That's true. And we will help you get there.
Okay. It's our choice, correct?
Yep, it's your
Okay.
choice.
Thank you.
Could I read just one paragraph out of this feasibility study? It's 1-3. It says, what happens if the runway is not relocated? That's in the feasibility study of 2003. If the runway remains in its present position, two things would need to be accomplished. First, the existing facilities would need to be modified in order to meet Part B2 design standards, which I think we've done. Second, the city would need to adopt an ordinance limiting operations to aircraft with certified takeoff weights of 12,000 pounds or less. If this cap were not imposed, the airport would risk losing federal grant funding for capital improvement and pavement maintenance projects, as they would be viewed as being out of compliance. So it seems like right there you're telling us, or at least the study did, the master plan did, that we need to have those caps. or we'd be out of compliance if we didn't, because we're wearing out a runway. I mean, I know that's old, but it's trying to verify in the beginning of the meeting that it's what we're operating under right now. I have the ordinance in front of me as far as what we already passed, and it's, you know, it was never objected to in the plan. I guess I wondered, Mark made the statement as I asked about this a week or so ago, well, this was the plan, but, you know, you don't really endorse it or whatever, but I don't know what the point of a plan that we do for the FAA, and there's something in there you don't like, you don't even say anything about it, or if it's in there, I ought to be able to assume that we're okay with it. Or am I mistaken in that?
Well, I think I'll go back to my comments from earlier in the meeting where I really don't know what that document is. It's not signed by the FAA. I don't see a signature on there. So I really don't know if we approved it back then. I don't know if it was funded by the FAA or not.
We need to get to that, okay,
Correct.
thank you.
That's fine with it.
And I don't want to keep quoting it either, Kristen, if it's not something that was approved, so
Right.
we're on the same page, okay?
Kristen, thank you very much. I think this has been very helpful. It's good to get everything out on the table and talk about it. I mean, that's the whole point of these meetings as the airport board, and we appreciate the involvement. And, thank you very much.
Thank you.